People often say that the energy crisis in the UK is due to the war in Ukraine. It sounds reasonable, but if the story is that simple, why are energy prices in the UK higher than in many other major economies? Why do British businesses have to pay 3 times more for electricity than those in the US, and 4 times more than those in China? And why, in a wealthy country, do millions of people have to forego meals just to be able to turn on the heating in winter? Perhaps the answer does not lie entirely in Moscow or the global LNG market, but part of the story is right in Westminster. For many years, decisions about the electricity market pricing structure, energy transition, and infrastructure were made with goals that sounded very promising and ambitious. But when the assumptions change, geopolitics shake gas prices rise, and the system lacks a damper, everything starts to have a chain reaction. In today's video, we will go back through the entire story, from the global gas market to how electricity prices are set, and why seemingly rational decisions may have inadvertently turned energy into one of the biggest economic shocks for the British people. There was a time when energy in England was so cheap that people hardly thought about it. Electricity was just a foundation. Coal, gas, nuclear, all of these create a country that operates smoothly like a machine. Then perhaps everything started to crack. In April 2021, the energy price cap was £1,138 per year. By October 2022, that figure skyrocketed to £3,549, increased by more than 212% in just 18 months. A figure that sounds like a code for failure. That was when Ofgem's energy price cap skyrocketed to an unimaginable level, an 80% increase in just 1 quarter. Let me help you visualize it. In just 18 months, the amount you have to pay to light up your home has tripled, nearly £300 each month. It's like in the morning you buy a loaf of bread for £1, and by the afternoon the seller asks you for £3. Isn't it absurd? Yes. But that's exactly how the politicians are running this country. England, the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, where humanity was once taught to harness steam and coal. Now, we hold a shameful record. Industrial electricity prices are 3 times higher than in the US and 4.5 times higher than in China. We are not only shutting down chemical factories, which have already lost 40% of their output since 2021, but we are also sacrificing our national dignity to give our competitors the upper hand. They talk about generous relief packages. The government has thrown £78 billion into the black hole of energy support. Don't be mistaken, that is not the kindness of Whitehall. That is tax money pension funds, the lifelong efforts of you all being used to extinguish fires for a system that is already rotten to the core. It's like trying to bail water out of a sinking ship with a leaky bucket while the crew is still busy arguing about the color of the sails. But the real betrayal doesn't lie in those billions. It lies here. 19% of households in England cannot keep their homes warm. Look back at the men who dedicated 40 years of their lives to building this country, now having to sit in the living room with thick coats and trembling hands, simply because warmth from the heater has become a luxury item. Household energy debt has reached £4.43 billion. This is not debt from extravagance, this is debt for the need to breathe and to survive. A brilliant arrangement from the air-conditioned offices in Whitehall, where policies are designed with eye-catching green charts but have never experienced the bone-chilling cold of a house without electricity. Do you find it ridiculous that the 6th richest country in the world forces its citizens to choose between heating or eating? Is this progress, or just a meticulously planned economic bloodletting in the name of lofty goals? If you also feel your heart tighten at this absurdity, please subscribe. We will not remain silent while these truths are buried, but who really holds the universal key to suffocate us? Why can 37% of the output control your entire wallet? Let's open the black box of the gas pricing system in the next section. Have you ever wondered why, when gas prices skyrocket from the farthest corners of the world, your electricity bill from the wind farms just off the coast of Norfolk also rises? Imagine this. You walk into a pub. 98 people order beer at £3 a pint, but as soon as the last 2 people order a top-shelf whiskey at £50, the landlord immediately demands that everyone pay £50 for their drinks. Ridiculously maddening, right? But that's exactly how the British electricity market is operating. Data from UCL reveals a bitter paradox. Gas contributes only about 37% of electricity generation, yet it determines the price 98% of the time. We are living in a system where the minority holds the power over the wallets of the vast majority. Politicians have designed a machine where cheap energy sources like wind or solar are forced to dance to the rhythm of expensive gas pipelines. Why has a once self-sufficient power like the UK become so fragile? The answer lies in systematic naivety. The drivers at Whitehall have designed energy for a rose-colored world where peace is eternal and gas is always available at a low price. They traded autonomy for dependence on LNG ships drifting at sea, where just a pipeline maintenance in Norway or a gunshot in Ukraine could instantly cause your small town's bill to skyrocket. This system does not protect you. It protects the big players in the energy sector from risk, while shifting all the burdens onto the shoulders of those who have dedicated their lives to this country. Are politicians too afraid to confront interest groups, or do they truly believe that the British people will endure this injustice indefinitely? Can we call ourselves a sovereign nation when our economic fate lies in the hands of geopolitical fluctuations that we cannot control? It's time for us to stop accepting convoluted explanations and demand a system truly for the consumers. If you think these paradoxes need to be exposed more widely, please subscribe to the channel. We need unity to create pressure for change. But remember, energy is not just numbers on a chart or debates in Parliament. Behind those misguided policies are the painful realities unfolding right in the kitchen of every British home. Are you ready to look into the place where the cold begins to invade our dignity? Let's put aside the macro numbers and the tangled charts in government reports for now. Let's talk about what is happening right here within the brick walls of your own home. You know, in a civilized society, energy should be a basic utility like air to breathe. But through the hands of policymakers, it has been turned into a silent extortionist. It creeps into every crack, taking the last pound from your pension pocket. There is a ruthless phrase haunting England: heat or eat. Currently, more than 36% of households are spending over 10% of their income just to keep the lights on. For a young person, 10% might just be a few nights out drinking. But for a retiree, that 10% is nutritious meals, medicine, and a bit of joy in old age taken away in exchange for a room just warm enough. In addition, there is the standing charge. Even if you decide to live like a hermit, turning off all electrical devices and sitting in the dark, you still have to pay. The network fee is expected to increase by about £66. You are being forced to fund the mess of wires and infrastructure that politicians have carelessly damaged, regardless of whether you use a single unit of electricity or not. It's like having to pay a subscription for a restaurant you never step into just so they have money to fix the kitchen. The consequences are not just in the bill. It lies in dignity. 19% of homes are not warm enough. For those over 50, the cold is not merely an inconvenience. It is an enemy that attacks joints and the cardiovascular system. It's heartbreaking to see those who have spent more than 2/3 of their lives building this country now having to put on extra layers of clothing in their own living rooms to save every penny. 24% of the population admit that their mental health is cracking due to anxiety every time they look at the electric meter ticking. It's no longer economic management, it's a crisis of dignity. We grew up in a confident England where abundant energy from nuclear and coal was a national pride. Now we must learn to get used to scarcity in abundance. Politicians promise a bright future, but it seems they forget that people need warmth in the present before reaching that future. Can a society call itself a superpower when millions of elderly people have to live in fear of their most basic human needs? Do you see your faith wearing away along with the cold in your home? If you believe that the dignity of the British people is worth more than the system's wrong decisions, please subscribe. We need to stand together so that this voice is not drowned out. But be careful, because when homes become cold, the furnaces in the factories also begin to go out. The heart of England's manufacturing is on the brink of a stroke due to these outrageous prices. Let's temporarily forget about the cold houses for a moment to look at the machine that creates our prosperity. If energy is blood, then industry is the heart. And right now, politicians are letting this heart stop beating due to the outrageous electricity prices. Did you know that industrial electricity prices in the UK are currently 3 times higher than in the US and 4.5 times higher than in China? Put yourself in the position of a factory owner. How can you compete when, right from the starting line, your operating costs are several times higher than your competitors? As a result, we are witnessing a preordained commercial bloodletting. The chemical industry, the backbone of manufacturing, has astonishingly declined by 40% since 2021. When a factory closes, it's not just GDP numbers evaporating on paper, but thousands of high-tech jobs, the future of our children, being exported abroad. We take pride in reducing domestic emissions, but in reality, we are just importing everything from China, where they still casually burn coal to produce cheap goods and sell them back to us. Are we saving the planet by destroying our own economic foundation, or are we simply transferring labor and prosperity to someone else? But it's not just the big corporations that are in trouble. Look at the small businesses right at the end of the alley, the bakery, the machine shop, the laundry. Up to 30% of small businesses in the UK are currently on life support just to pay their energy bills. They are the ones who truly work, creating real value, but are being suffocated by a system that prioritizes virtual numbers over actual businesses. Energy is no longer just a technical issue for engineers. It has become a national financial crisis. When the government has to throw £78 billion to support the system, they are using future money to patch a current gap. A country that no longer produces anything tangible, relying only on services and numbers on computer screens, can it withstand the storms of geopolitical turmoil? What legacy are we leaving for the next generation? Abandoned factories turned into museums of a golden era, or piles of unpaid bills? Do you believe that a country can be strong if it cannot produce essential goods for itself? Prepare yourself. Because the scariest part is not this crack happening once, but when all the factors from gas prices, industrial collapse, and household debt roll into a death spiral with no way out. At this point, you might tell yourself, all right, if the prices are high, I'll use less, I'll turn off some lights, I'll endure the cold a bit to lower the bill. Sounds reasonable, right? But in the current energy system of the UK, conventional logic has been thrown out the window. Welcome to the doom loop, the deadly cycle that those sitting at the negotiation table have inadvertently or deliberately installed into our lives. Look at this crazy paradox. When the people of England unanimously save, the demand for electricity decreases by about 8 to 10%, so the bills should decrease accordingly. But no. The energy companies immediately complained that they did not have enough revenue to maintain the network. And so they raise the fixed fee. Result: you use less, but the final amount you have to pay remains the same or even increases. It's like you didn't even take a taxi but still had to pay double the door opening fee just because the driver had no passengers. And here is the magic trick of the managers in 2026. The wholesale price dropped by £38 a piece of good news on the front page. But immediately, network costs surged by £66. This is the game of taking money from the left pocket and putting it into the right pocket. They give you a glimmer of hope at one end, then quietly pick your pocket at the other, through convoluted cost structures that no ordinary person can comprehend. Not to mention, let's talk about the £4.43 billion energy debt. Where do you think this debt from those who cannot afford to pay will go? It doesn't disappear. It is broken down and directly charged to your own bill. Those of you who are tightening your belts to pay on time each month. You are not just paying for your own electricity, you are paying off a whole malfunctioning management system. The pressure to transition to net zero too quickly without adequate storage infrastructure preparation has turned what should be clean and cheap energy sources into a massive financial burden. We are building wind farms but lack storage batteries, leading to having to pay billions just to ask wind farms to stop operating when the grid is overloaded. That's not environmental protection, it's a reckless waste of taxpayers' hard-earned money. Are we stuck in a system designed so that prices can never truly decrease? Are the authorities using electricity bills as a hidden tax to compensate for their policy mistakes? Do you still have the patience to hear the promise of prices will drop next year, year after year, while in reality, your wallet keeps getting emptier? So is there still a light at the end of the tunnel, or will England forever be trapped in this cycle of darkness? There is still a glimmer of hope if we dare to face the truth and change our choices. At this point, perhaps we are all tired of the gloomy news. I have good news for you about a glimmer of hope, but not the rosy kind of hope that politicians often promise before every election. This is the kind of pragmatic hope that our generation understands best, facing the truth to fix it. The first piece of good news is that we won't have to live in the dark. Forecasts for 2026 show that the UK's energy reserve margin will reach 6.1 gigawatts, meaning the risk of widespread power outages is almost zero. We still have electricity, the issue is whether we have enough money to turn it on. A small ray of hope has appeared. Starting from April 2026, pilot programs aimed at reducing fixed fees are beginning to be implemented. This is a step in the right direction, albeit a bit late. It acknowledges the reality that you should not be punished with unreasonable numbers just for existing. But for this to become a widespread reality, the pressure from taxpayers like you is the only thing that prevents them from backing down. The real solution lies in divorcing the price of clean electricity from the price of gas. It's time for the wind farms and storage batteries to deliver on their promise, providing cheap electricity to the people rather than serving as a facade for global gas prices. Separating the renewables obligation mechanism is key to ensuring your bill truly reflects the value of England's nature rather than relying on a gas pipeline from somewhere beyond the borders. I want to be clear about this. It's time for us to stop arguing about choosing the green of the environment or the black of industry. Let's choose affordability. Energy must be a tool to serve people, not people being slaves to sustain a flawed policy system. Our generation. Those who built England with practicality, with hands working in factories, and minds meticulously calculating every pound. We are the ones who understand the true value of autonomy. Don't let that voice be drowned out by flowery but empty terms. Use that very life experience to force those at the helm in Whitehall to learn from the economic explosion they caused. We have gone through a long journey from the shocking numbers on the bills to the systemic mistakes in the offices at Whitehall. But in the end, this story is not just about the numbers. It is about dignity. The England we know, a leading industrial power, does not deserve an energy system that makes the elderly shiver in their living rooms and forces factories to shut down. Net zero or any noble goal will become meaningless if the price to pay is the impoverishment of our own people. We cannot save the planet by destroying our own economy. Your generation built this country with resilience and dignity. It's time for us to demand a real change. An energy system that serves people is pragmatic and transparent. The light at the end of the tunnel only appears when we have the courage to acknowledge our mistakes and correct them right now. Can we proudly call ourselves a superpower when millions of people have to choose between heating and eating right in the middle of the 21st century? If you were in my position, would you choose to persist with an expensive energy path or demand a return to practical values to save the national production? If you think these truths need to be spread so that the authorities will listen, please like and share this video with your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell icon so you won't miss the next in-depth investigations about the fate of our nation's economy. Your voice is the power to change the system. This video is made with the purpose of providing information and analysis based on public data and economic reports, Ofgem ONSUCLOBR. The views in the video are intended for discussion and policy critique, not for personal or specific organizational attacks. This content does not constitute investment or professional financial advice. Viewers should conduct their own research and take responsibility for their personal financial decisions.